Let's get the thoughts this morning of Shaun Davis, who joins me now. Good morning, Shaun.
Morning, Adam.
So, U-turns, concessions, a possible rebellion. Has this welfare bill been a shambolic process?
Look, I think everybody who speaks on this recognises the need to reform the welfare system. We've got a situation where 1 in 8 children, young people are not in education or learning. We've got 1 in 10 working people out of work right now, and 3 million people out of work because of health reasons. And with the largest economy in the whole of the world that has got lower levels of employment compared to before the pandemic. So something has to change. And I know from speaking to people here in Telford that the welfare system just simply isn't helping and supporting them. So the point of reform is not contested. How you go about that reform is what is contested. The Conservatives want to go further and faster. They want to cut £12 billion from the welfare bill. We think that there is desperate need to reform the system, and in doing so, we need to incentivise people into work. We need to give them the help and support that they need to come off welfare into work, and that's why the government's announced £1 billion of support to do that.
Many Labour MPs voting against the government. Why did you vote in favour?
Well, look, I take the view, and I take this view from leading a council for 8 years, that you have to have conversations in private. And I've been having conversations with ministers and with special advisors in private all the way up to the vote. And where we got to in the end, I think was pragmatic. So what that means is anybody who's on universal credit right now, claiming universal credit right now, will not be affected at all by these proposed changes. And that's important because there was a huge amount of uncertainty for people who are claiming. The second change that was secured yesterday was that people who are future claimants, there will be a review, the Sir Stephen Timms review, that will look at ways in which the system can be fairer. And most importantly, that review will be a hand in glove with disability organisations and people to make sure that the system is designed to be fair. And the rate of any rate of benefit or entitlement to that benefit in the future will be dependent upon that review, which is also important for certainty. Look, welfare reform is difficult, and it's really difficult for Labour politicians and the Labour Party because we were the party that set up the welfare state. But there is also some fundamental principles that I believe that those people who can work should work. Those people who want to work should be aided and helped and supported into work. And importantly, those people that will never ever work because of a terminal diagnosis or because of a significant long-lasting disability should also not be subject to reassessments. And that's what this bill also does. There's been a huge amount of focus on some of the more challenging money-related items in this legislation, but there are some reforms in there that I welcome, including the fact that there will be a increase to a part of the benefits, which means that people will not incentivised to go into the ill health element of the benefit. They'll be able to be supported to work, and that's really important. We've got vacancies in our economy that need filling, and we've got people who want to work, and we need to match those two things up.
This welfare reform has been watered down, hasn't it, to get the bill past Labour MPs? Should the whole thing be looked at again? That's what South Shropshire's Conservative MP Stuart Anderson wants to happen.
Well, Stuart Anderson wants to cut, Stuart Anderson's party wants to cut £12 billion from the welfare bill. So that's what they want to do. What we want to do is to look at ways in which we can improve the system. Listen, would I have wanted a better approach to this bill? Yes, absolutely, 100%. And I think anybody who's been watching this closely would understand why I say that. But we are in a position now where those people who are claiming universal credit will not be affected. Future claimants will be able to work via charity organisations with the government to design that package. But we've also got a package of support, £1 billion a year. £1 billion over the next few years to support people into work, and we've got some reforms. So, for example, one of the biggest changes we're going to make is that assessments will take place face to face. Under the last Conservative government, they were done over the phone, and that saw a massive increase in people being passported onto these benefits. So there's a number of things that we need to do to change, to support people, but also to ensure that the system is fair and that people are not gaming the system.
Mental health, of course, now the main reason for people claiming disability benefits. What more can the government do in that area to support claimants into work?
Well, this is where I think there's a hand in glove need for change around the health service. The health service is shocking, isn't it? And we know that. And West Streeting will tomorrow announce a 10-year plan to get the health service back on its feet, which includes mental health support. But also there is a recognition that actually work can be part of the answer for some people, not all, but some people with mental health conditions. And we need to find ways in which we can help employers to help their staff. So, for example, we're introducing a to work scheme, which will mean that people can try work out. If it doesn't work out, they can go back onto their benefits. If it does, then fantastic. And we're also going to support employers to be able to do that. You're right. Mental health conditions are one of the main reasons why people claim PIP now, and we need to make sure that we're supporting people to recover that, including access to mental health support.
Parliament's summer break begins in a couple of weeks. Is there a danger this welfare bill will leave a long-lasting bad impression for the government over the summer?
Look, it hasn't been the government's finest week. I think the Prime Minister downwards would acknowledge that, and there's going to be lessons that the government need to learn about how to engage with members of Parliament with concerns but also expertise in this area. I will point out, though, that we are dealing with so many issues from the last 14 years, whether that be NHS, local government, SEND, education, and not to forget the fact that we are living in a very difficult, very insecure, very dangerous world right now, which has required the government to be thinking about security and defence more than normal. But that isn't an excuse. The government has to be better engaging with MPs and engaging with the public. I'm sure that lessons will be learned from the last few days.
Shaun, thank you very much for being with us this morning. That's Telford's Labour MP, Shaun Davis, who voted in favour of the government's welfare bill last night. And there is, of course, the latest on that on the BBC News app this morning and on the website as well. 16 minutes past 8.